Chapter 1241. Looking for third. Aruma first went to the warehouse to look for it, but found that there was no one on the deck or the lower warehouse. It is reasonable to say that at this time, there should be a certain number of staff on the black pirate ship. Its light disappeared. Could it be that someone secretly matched this matter first? If so, then the matter must be much more difficult to handle than before. At least for myself, it will take a long time to solve it, and it will take a short time. There is no way to solve all this oncoming in time. Fortunately, I found a special entrance at the warehouse board below. I don't know where this place leads. Aruma took a look at this place, made a mark, and put it away like a normal person. The door was closed, and he turned to leave. The people next to him didn't notice anything wrong, and a few people came over in the middle, and put them here, as if they wanted to see some special people, but found that there was only one person in this place. Just like coming out of that passage, at this time, Aruma observed every day a look beside him staring at him all the time. If he guessed correctly, he should be the guardian of this channel. Every minute and every second of the action here should be under his control, and he should still be thinking about some other countermeasures, but who is betrayed? With this pirate ship, who has an alliance with? It stands to reason that the previous Luffy was imprisoned in that place, and it was impossible to get in touch with the outside world. And Marshal Tucci already didn't want to worry about this matter for a long time, and Gong Yi had promised him that when he left this pirate ship, he would return the control of this place to him. There is no threat to him, so at this moment, he is also a little overwhelmed. I don't know what to say to be better. Maybe this is some of the disadvantages of the combination, but in any case, things have already happened. What other things can be used to judge? More importantly, in the process of this matter, he occupies a relatively important role, and at least in a short time, there is no way for him to get rid of this huge Uzumaki. Did you see that there was something weird about that person just now? After hearing this, Aruma next to him couldn't help but pay attention. When he listened to their speeches, he realized that the person revealed in the words was not Meyer. This place was the one that the two of them discovered before, instead of. It's a secret base, it's better a place where you can take refuge. Before, because there were some things that were not easy to handle when working under Lu, I simply chose a secret place. I didn't expect it to be here at this time, but at the same time it also made Gong Yi discover some other problems. Aluma went to look for Meyer, but spent most of the day in it and never came back. This made him feel a little better before sending other people out to find them. Of course he Shicheng did become one of the two candidates. But before going out, he Shicheng still hesitated for a while. Gong Yi didn't. Knowing the disputes between them, I only knew that there was a slight omission in this matter, but he didn't hesitate. Quickly solving this matter, I directly asked these people to find the two of them with their own instructions. At the same time, he Shicheng also discovered the ones left by Aluma. The mark, I don't know if it was for him. What he saw for himself was left for his own reference. But in any case, this method is definitely used by Aruma. If you follow this path, let alone people who can find him, I am afraid that both of them should be fine, so at this moment, let he Shicheng write first. Looking at the next step quickly came to mind a few other things. The corners of the mouth that had just been lifted drooped all of a sudden. If I want to solve this matter in a short time, I need to pass the level in front of me, but Aruma and Meyer should be in the same place. Location, if I want to save myself, I can only save one of them, so what should I do? Before entering this door, he Shicheng thought about all the possibilities, but after pushing the door in, he found that there was only Meyer in that place. A person does not have Aruma. At the moment when the door behind him suddenly closed, he Shicheng turned his head sharply, but found that he didn't expect Aruma to be there. Outside the door, Aruma was also slightly surprised at this time. It is too unreasonable to think that he would appear in that place. How could such a situation occur? But for me, there is no more time to question. After all, things have already happened. If I hesitate any more a word. Chapter 1242. Text. There may be other problems, but at this time everyone can't stop calling Aruma immediately. He rushed to the gate of the iron gate of the fence, and the gate of that place was pulled by hand, motioning for them to open that gate. Of course, the two people inside were also working hard. It's just that it doesn't work. After all, some things are not. You can do what you want to do. At least through a short period of investigation, think about how to do it, and at this moment, Aruma, I also found some other things, just like this thing in front of me. Some of the special characters that appeared on them seemed to have been seen somewhere before, and when he took a closer look, Gongyi realized that this is not what he saw in those places at the beginning. Words are nothing else. It was mentioned in a previous book. I never thought that I would still encounter it in this place, but fortunately, there are some differences. After this discovery appeared, Aruma was also there. Check the surrounding dangers in the shortest possible time. You two wait for me inside for a while, and I'll go in right away. If you have any problems, you can call me directly from this place. If I can hear it, I will help you solve it. If there is an internal strife, the situation inside is not really dangerous. You must relax your mind and remember that I have nothing to do with it. After hearing this, the two people inside felt at ease involuntarily. No one would have imagined that her words would have such a soothing action. At first everyone thought he was just an ordinary little boy. As for the previous sense of security issues, it's purely an illusion. But at this time, all the feelings have been magnified to infinity, and it makes him feel that he seems to be a little reliable, but makes himself a little dazed. But no matter what the reason is, it has already come to this. No matter how much you want to escape, there is no other solution other than doing it in a serious manner. In desperation, Shicheng had to appease Mayer, who was beside him. Maybe it was because he had been detained in this place for too long, and he always felt that his breathing was a little heavy. But in fact, it wasn't until I turned on the light that I realized that the other party was not imprisoned for too long, but passed out because of excessive injuries and bleeding. This will happen. Don't rush first. Come in and look for some medicine that can be bandaged. He fell into a coma because of his injury. I don't know why. I'll simply bandage him first. After hearing this, the people outside slowly calmed down. That's right, what he said is the correct way to do it. I can't be too nervous now. Wouldn't that make people happy? It is more necessary to investigate the surrounding situation and choose a more appropriate method to solve it. After all, the current situation is not a disadvantage for him, but it is not a benefit, but it can't be made. He can get a good deal. With such thoughts and multiple comforts, Aruma quickly goes around, simply finds some explosive drugs and pack them up. Passing it in through the fence at the crack of the door, as expected, the moment he passed it in, Mayer was sober. It seemed that he had a sense of the outside world, and he was leaving the last bit of strength to look around. In this situation, I was afraid that someone would do something while he was not paying attention. Saw this scene, couldn't help but feel a little moved, so he started to comfort Mayer in front of him, and let him slowly let go of his vigilance. After a while, the other party fell asleep peacefully. So much damage. But no matter what it is an indelible experience for me. If I can exchange Mayer's trust in me once, I think this mission is very appropriate, at least worth it, but you must understand one reason. At this moment, he is already unable to protect himself. How could he be able to help him? It was just a casual glance, but because of this scene, the relationship between a few people has eased a little. Aluma is in the process of slowly accepting it, not to mention its Mayer. I really didn't expect to trouble you again this time. I thought things would get better, but I didn't expect it to come back to that time all of a sudden. Hearing this, Aruma shook his head, indicating that there was no big problem, but he also didn't understand what this person was talking about. It was very unfamiliar to him. Chapter 1243, Secret First. After all, no matter from which point of view, he has not cracked this secret in a short period of time, and he has not reached any tacit understanding with Mayer and the others, so at this moment he does not understand what he is saying. But no matter what the reason is, you must temporarily respect this atmosphere. After all, in a short period of time, apart from him, I really can't think of any other secrets that can be solved, but at the same time, Mayer is very cooperative. When he saw that he was going to put medicine on him, he decisively put the injury on him. The side of is exposed, which is for me a very good thing. It is better than letting myself do it step by step. I really didn't expect that it would be the most difficult for people to accept you, and you have become the person who helps me today. When he said this, he also showed a bitter smile. Shichung naturally couldn't understand it at this time, and he didn't need to understand so much. Anyway, from the beginning to the end, he only needs to know it should be enough to help now. The rest of the matter itself has nothing to do with him, and at this moment, Gongyi also discovered some other small problems. After a few people went, they never came back. If there is no doubt, it is definitely impossible, but where it went, this is really something that I didn't think of. At this moment, Gongyi also discovered some other problems. After all, someone rushed up to report to him, saying that there was a sudden movement next to him. At first, Gongyi did not respond until later. I only understood after hearing what he said. It turns out that this time Shixian is better than he thought, but there are many, at least in a short period of time. It is not so easy to solve, and these people's faces are undoubtedly frightened, so it is not difficult to see that there should be a problem. But how to solve this problem, this is something I can't avoid now. You stop and take a breath, and slowly tell what's going on. I saw Aluma Meyer and Shichung on the other side just now. Who knew that they all went into the same room, and after they went in, no one came out. Of course, Aluma was the only one who didn't go in, but he just let us know and let's do it right away. Tell you to come and find them. After hearing this, Gongyi was stunned for a moment. What is it? Is this thing related to me? But without any hesitation, I got up and went to the place with them, and waited until Gongyi arrived at the door. Only then did I find that the place was completely extreme from what I thought, and I thought it should be a more settled place. That it was a devilish hell-like area. It was a place where some special characters were extensive, and it could be regarded as a prison cell. Is there anything in this place? There is nothing, but you will definitely not be able to leave if you come today. After hearing this, Gongyi turned his head abruptly, but it was too late. The person behind him who pretended to be a hand suddenly widened his eyes, pushed himself into the room, and then pushed him tightly beside him. The windows were closed, and then the fence locked myself and the group of people in this place. Hearing the sound of the attack, he walked out, only to find that Gongyi was also in this place, so he called everyone outside, except Mayer, who was in a coma, was not clean. Ruma came out covered in blood. Gongyi thought at first who was injured. But seeing his very calm face, he knew that this matter should have nothing to do with him, but apart from him, the person in front of him was also fine. There was only Meyer there, and I shouldn't let him go on patrol alone at night. It seems that I really have a problem with my prediction this time. I'm sorry, this time should be my problem. If I hadn't forced him to patrol alone, this problem wouldn't have happened. I'll pay more attention next time, but what's wrong with you guys? It's a long story, anyway. Just need to know that it's up to him. I thought you could save us outside, but now it seems unlikely that you are just like us. This place has been imprisoned, and that big iron gate, we tried to get out from that place, but there was no result. After hearing this, Gongyi looked to the side, wanting to see how Aruma would react, but at this moment Aruma just lowered his head, with a dark look in his eyes. He didn't know him. Thinking about something, but definitely thinking about revenge, Gongyi grabbed Aruma's hand and gave him some comfort. Chapter 1244. Help. It's not that I don't help him now, but that there are some places that I can't do it myself. Once there are some problems, this thing will get worse, and I don't want to make things so bad. Stiff. Don't worry, there is something that the few of us can't solve. There are so many strong winds and waves coming together at the beginning. What's the matter? Don't think about it anymore. If there is a chance, we can go to meet together. That's right, and don't you see that the situation has improved slightly now? Except Mayer, who is in a coma, everything is still within our expectations. But at the same time, this is the first time I have seen such a thing, and it should be regarded as an unexpected situation at present. If we go straight to the point, it may lead to some unexpected changes in other things, so at this moment. Gong Yi didn't really want to touch this matter. But there is no other way. Once you have made up your mind, you will not be able to budget for some other aspects. In desperation, you have to do it according to the first method in your heart. Then you can only face it together. One thing may not be done properly, but there is no other way. Don't worry, and he is only temporarily in a coma. Everything will eventually have a new ending. Don't worry too much. Usually Meyer will protect himself. This time is no exception, otherwise it might not have been him, but a corpse. After hearing this, Gong Yi had no choice but to nod his head. After all, what he said was indeed true. If the plan this time was not what he expected, then maybe the rest of the matter is still the same. It can change, but fortunately, Meyer has kept it in his heart now. That's left is step by step to find out who the mastermind behind the scene is and settle the account with him. After all, this matter must be to find the person who really made the decision. I'm afraid I can't get rid of Luffy this time. After all, apart from him, I don't think anyone else can make a black hand on this matter. After all, everyone knows that this person is under the cover of the captain's hands, and no one will be reckless. For such a condition, go and stab this matter out of a basket. After hearing this, even if you don't agree with yourself, you must go back to it. After all, what he said is indeed right. It is possible that there will be special events in many aspects. Then it will be as easy as you think. Then I can only let you go in and investigate. After all, there is no time for the upper side of this matter. I believe you can complete this matter. Aruma nodded, and then went straight down. At the same time, he also found another point. Gong Yi was nearby, and he also arranged some other personnel. They all came back and reported to him that yes, Meyer was there. When incarcerated in that prison, he also met with a few different people. After hearing the news, the Gong Yi Alliance asked carefully who these people were, but only got a vague answer, and he didn't know who these people were. May also be a distinction of status. I didn't spend so much power on this soldier, but I had already assigned Aluma to investigate, and this matter should come to light immediately. After all, no one could have imagined that Luffy would do it like this. To the extent that I thought that the previous thing was enough to solve it for a while. Who would have thought that she would have caused another big trouble, and it seemed that he really underestimated her this time. At the same time, the situation on Meyer's side can be said to be getting worse and worse. Luffy would have used medicine. It seems that the person who attacked Meyer this time should be Luffy's subordinate. And there is also a disguise technique. The only thing that can be done in parallel between the two is that there will be no second person on this black pirate ship, except for the travel expenses. Marshal Tucci ignored these things at all. The so-called things, so at this moment, I also guessed what the specific results were, but I didn't want to say it. It's just, after all, there are some truths once it is said. Become within reach, then if this scar is opened later. The one below. If the truth is not what everyone expects, then whether to choose half to accept and half not to accept, or choose to turn a blind eye. I really didn't expect you to be able to provide me with such information. It's really thanks to you. After hearing this, the person left like this, and Gong Yi was thinking about how to solve this matter. If he wants to please both sides, it can be said that it is impossible at all. Chapter 1245. But if it's definitely not a problem to want to save Meyer, regardless of Luffy's feelings, but Luffy, as the only person who can start from that place, doesn't want to make this relationship too much stiff. After all, some things are just like what they think, and one day they will happen to a stage that is beyond their control. Well, let me ask you a few questions. If you can answer it, then this is the case. After all, you were also the deputy captain of this ship before. There are some things that you need to contact others through your place. People. After hearing this, Luffy couldn't help laughing at himself. Is he trying to satirize himself or to say something else? The current deputy captain is not himself, and what if he was the deputy factory director back then? Didn't everything develop according to his will? It had nothing to do with him. Gong Yi naturally knew what the man was thinking, so he didn't bother with him too much, but went straight to the topic. Just ask you a question, is Mayor's current situation caused by you? If you say yes, we will make another plan. If you say no, but the truth is found out that is not the case, I think you should know my means well, it may make your life worse than death, so I still advise you to find a more elegant answer to answer. The moment he heard these words, Luffy suddenly started to laugh with his head up, as if he had heard something incredible. Like words of confidence, Gong Yi sighed helplessly when he saw his appearance. I knew that things would turn into what they are today, and I even had expectations for him. It seems that this really made me feel a little desperate, but the situation on Mayor's side basically has nothing to do with him, but Luffy suddenly said that he did not do it, so it seems that in this matter there must be someone else. After seeing this scene, the soldier next to him couldn't help but grab the corner of Gong Yi's shirt. It seemed that he wanted to ask why he did not continue to interrogate the toll, but at this time Gong Yi shook his head. He knew that even if he had something to hide from himself, he wanted to take revenge on himself, but the only thing he would not do is just to deceive yourself. Don't worry, he's the only one. I won't lie to me, but think about how to wake Meyer first. Then, this poison was not caused by him. It may not be that simple, and it is difficult to crack in a short period of time. Hurry up and hand Aruma back. Don't look for anything there. After hearing this, the man immediately ran out and wanted to call Aruma back from that place, but when he went there, he found that the man was no longer there. There was some panic in Yi's heart, as if something opened his own right away. Although this feeling may not be the first time, it can't be the last time, and both Aruma and Mayor are now experiencing different degrees of problems. After Yi fell into a coma, Aruma was attacked for taking a series of actions. I really made myself not think of that. The mastermind behind the scenes is so bold, he has already put things on the bright side and thought it would be a little restrained. It seems that this time he is constantly testing his bottom line. Gong Yi, there was nothing more to say at this moment. I just hope that the next things will not be so excessive, but the imagination is still an expectation of my own. When the real thing happens, it has changed to a different state. But there will definitely be a change in time. Isn't that what's happening now? And from the current situation, things in what I think are completely two extremes. I thought that the master behind the scenes just stood there blankly. There were a few people waiting in that place, but he didn't expect that he couldn't hold back and take the initiative to attack. Since that's the case, let him clearly understand who is the mastermind behind the scenes. The past 2 days, Gong Yi has not searched more people, and has been doing his own things step by step. One is to wait for that. The master behind the scenes will automatically reveal the secret, and the other is in order to explore, what is the purpose of that person. After all, now, everything is my own thinking, and it seems that it is not the same. At least on the surface, it can be said to be two extremes, but the heart of guarding against others is indispensable. Before things are finalized, you can't let go of any possibility, even the people beside you are impossible. After all, the little boy had reminded himself before that no matter who was around him, he should be a little careful. Chapter 1246. Disguise. After all, each of them may be able to disguise. I don't think I have any idea about this aspect, but after learning everything from Luffy, I gradually gained some understanding. On the night of Gong Yi, a man in black broke into his house, and Gong Yi, who was sleeping at first, didn't react. But it wasn't until after a while that he slowly heard footsteps. All of them seemed to be heading towards the edge of his bed, and when he opened his eyes, he saw a stranger there, but after turning on the light, found that it turned out to be Aruma's face, but his figure was completely inconsistent with Aruma. So Gong Yi quickly painted it with cement, and a person knocked on the door. At this time, the man in front of him disappeared suddenly, and he didn't know where he was hiding. Gong Yi operated a waterman like that. The door opened, and the room was searched, while Gong Yi was just sitting on the bed. Without any movement. I didn't expect that the man in black was found under the bed in the end. After he took off the makeup of the disguise, he realized that it was just an ordinary person, is not a room at all. I really didn't expect that they have already come to the door. It's not because you people deceive people too much. If you were alone guarding one person's territory, we wouldn't have invaded. It's all your fault. Those who obey in this place do not know what you are doing. Hearing this, Gong Yi was stunned. What kind of situation is this? Could it be that this matter has something to do with me? Why should I blame myself for everything? Obviously Gong Yi doesn't think so. Do something wrong. But at this time, it doesn't matter what he did. You didn't give her any chance to resist. Gong Yi looked at the man in black in front of him at this moment. What did he mean by pretending to be a crew member on his own ship when he had nothing to do and he kept hitting them? Could it be that there was some misunderstanding? After thinking of this, Gong Yi was doing it for a while, and then immediately asked the person in front of him, but the other party did not answer his words at this moment, and it is not looking at the people around, as if searching for a new imitation object, after seeing his expression. Gong Yi couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Who would have thought that it was for his own convenience? At the same time, Aruma also came back from there with Meyer, and no one could have imagined that everyone would be attacked in that place. Originally, Gong Yi almost lost sight of the person. Fortunately, a man in black appeared inexplicably on the way, and the matter was resolved. Of course, the person who stopped Gong Yi in this place did not intend to leave, but was still there. She worked hard and remembered everyone's faces, but in desperation, Gong Yi pulled it out. Lan Ying solved it directly. Since encountering such difficulties in this place, Lan Ying has never left her side. On the one hand, it is to ensure safety, and on the other hand, it is to maintain the stability of this part. After all, you didn't think about those people. It was like a desperate madman, mad, and rushed out of this place. Then they left immediately. The difference between the two of them is very big. If Luffy was just a small fight before, then they are really come for their lives. If there is any problem, we can all solve it. Why bother coercing each other? And look at the conditions you put forward, haven't we almost fulfilled them? We didn't say any special rejections. Isn't that not enough for us to discuss? It's been a while and I think you should have seen some of this place. Other items placed. This black pirate ship is not something you can make trouble with. After hearing this, the man turned his head and gave Gong Yi a surprised look, as if he didn't expect him to say such a thing, and then he disappeared in front of his eyes in the next second. Without even any extra hesitation, Gong Yi was stunned for a while. This situation can be said to be unheard of, never seen before, and did not expect to be able to leave so easily, and thought he would be dealing with himself for a while. After all, this time there is no such thing as it's as simple as you think. It seems that she came this time just to remember everyone's faces. From today onwards, no one should trust each other. If there is any problem, just come to me in the captain's room. After saying this, Gong Yi felt that something was not right, so he simply added something suitable for verifying his identity, that is, the jade pendant on his body. If the jade pendant is separated from the person, then this thing will become bleak and dull. Even if it is taken away, it doesn't matter. Chapter 1247. After hearing this, the rest of the people suddenly felt at ease, and stabilized the group of people behind the scenes. Why didn't they expect that they were all crazy to such an extent that they thought everything could be resolved long ago? Yes, but now it seems that it is still far away. At this time, the black pirate ship arrived in the routine shuttle process for a day. Not knowing where it will go this time, Gong Yi immediately. He supported the deck next to him, knowing that during the process, if someone stood on the deck, he might be sucked into Uzumaki by that huge suction. I don't know exactly where I went, and no one thought that Luffy, who had been imprisoned in the dungeon, suddenly ran out at this moment, stood on the deck, and said something in his mouth, as if he was to call the wind and call the rain like a storm. But when Gong Yi saw the words in his mouth, His face froze for a while. What he said was really that kind of call for wind and rain, but he was just not very skilled. There were only a few words. It's wrong, but the storm that is still summoned is not a small one. It seems that this time there is a big disaster, Gong Yi shouted quickly, and the sailors on the deck hurried into the house, no matter what. Now it's Class A or a real person. Anyway, it's a life. If you can save one, it counts as one. Meyer and Aruma also came to help when they saw it, but Meyer just woke up. So, the state is not very good, Gong Yi. I took him back together without saying anything. Instead of messing around in this place, it is better to go back directly. Just when those people entered the cabin, there were still a few scattered sailors in that place, and Gong Yi couldn't care less. They basically had something to do with the creation of this storm. After all, the few points occupied can also be said to be important places, wanting to start this storm. Only Luffy alone is enough, and the cooperation of many other people is needed to make this place more perfect. I never imagined that they would have already made this kind of contract behind their backs. They have nothing to say, anyway. They have already considered the consequences. No matter how I said it, it was just nonsense. After I figured this out, Gong Yi just arranged the people next to me and helped Aluma and Mayer to divide the cabins first. Many sailors lived on the other side of the lookout. Now that everyone has been driven in, many places are full. In desperation, I had to move all the warehouses out. Fortunately, those people did not have much, and they did not say how to dislike it. Which is quite a relief for me. But what made it difficult for him to cross the hurdle was his betrayal. At first, he thought that Luffy's ambition was enough, but he didn't expect that what he thought was still there. Later, with his own just two extremes. That being the case, I don't have any extra words to say, anyway. From the beginning to the end, it was just based on his practice to form another conclusion. What about the rest of the people? Can you help me? At least the space in the captain's room is relatively large. Prepare the rest first, so as to avoid a series of problems. If there is not enough space, you should move a few places first. I feel although the empty space is not too much, it is still within the scope. After hearing this, Aruma nodded and turned around to go about her own business. No one thought that this disaster would bring so much trouble. Luffy was on the deck at this time, waving his own the shoulders, and then transformed all the environment here into that kind of a terrifying atmosphere, coming and going with lightning. Contrary, those people on the deck didn't seem to be particularly frightened. On the contrary, they were screaming in excitement because of these thunder, lightning and heavy rain. I originally wanted to come up to see it, but what they said, after seeing this scene, Gong Yi quickly shrank his head back. If he was struck by lightning, he would be out of luck. You must know that this scene is actually very unfortunate. Easy, random lightning strikes, and they're in an abnormal pattern. Summoning these things may also be dangerous. If you do and say it, it doesn't mean you don't know. Even if you advise them, you won't listen. So Gong Yi stuck his head out and said something like this to them, but all he got was Luffy's disdainful snort, and the shouting of those people, which made her quickly leave his sight. In desperation, Gong Yi shrugged. They shrugged and left immediately. If they didn't listen to this sin, they couldn't be counted on their own heads, not to mention they tried their best. Chapter 1248. Adjustment. At present, things are getting better, but other areas still need to be adjusted, but at present, looking at the things I am facing, it should be a good thing. After all, people have God's help, and basically there is no problem. At the moment when his voice fell, a few lightning bolts slashed straight towards them, and it just happened to land on Luffy's shoulder. I don't feel anything about this. But then a person next to him suddenly screamed, and then Luffy pretended to be impatient and looked at her, but suddenly found that his body was actually on fire. At this time he couldn't help but also started to be in a hurry, and a few people next to him rushed forward to help. But the more people he thinks about, the more chaotic he gets when he helps, which also makes Luffy a little broken, but what can happen? It's too late to regret it. And at the moment when the person screamed, the thunder struck him directly. At the beginning, Luffy only felt a little on his shoulders, but he knew that the power of the thunder was not that small. In the blink of an eye, it had already been split into a rubber gray color, but what could he do at this time? Otherwise, the rest of the matter will not be so simple, and the lightning at this time is of the tracking type. Since he has done such a thing, he must pay the price as the premise, otherwise why would he be in this place? I told you both not to act rashly. The thunder and lightning here are all identifiable, since you have the ability to summon it, and you have the ability to send him away, since you have grasped the matter this time. If you have used 50% of the means, then I think you should be able to use this 50% to figure out how to deal with the rest, just as you have a few companions for them to help you think about together. After hearing this, another scream came from Luffy's side. I didn't expect that at this time, he was actually struck by lightning, but for Gong Yi, there was nothing. Influence, after all, what does it matter, what does it matter? That's why he was just by the side, staring blankly at it. At that time, the deck was already in chaos. I have to say that the power of this thunder and lightning is still very large. Although it only hit Luffy, the deck below also leaked, and it can be said that it penetrated 4 or 5 layers. This is not something that a simple lay-by can do, and champagne is also a relatively powerful one, so the people on board immediately start patching that hole, filling that hole quickly, so the rest of things can go a little faster. But this time, things are not that simple. At least Luffy is in this place. Everything can't be repaired. Immediately after someone fills this loophole, it will continue to split when encountering lightning, I don't want to let this place continues to live in peace. From the very beginning, Gong Yi hadn't thought about saving Luffy. Let's not say anything else, he betrayed himself as still an account. Moreover, I still remember the incident clearly in my heart. As long as I get the opportunity, I will definitely not let him go. Moreover, at this time, Gong Yi has also noticed some other problems. This can be resolved, but it just takes a little longer. Maybe a long time, or it may be in the past 2 days, but in any case, it is time for me to take the initiative to solve this matter. Since that's the case, it's not that I can't think of a way for you. You give me the other half of the book in your hand first. After hearing this, you must know that Luffy is naturally unwilling, and he wants to throw this thing away directly, and he is unwilling to give it to Gong Yi in front of him. But now I have worries in my heart, so I can't do anything about it for a while. Set this thing down, but no matter what the reason is, I hope he can be more stable. But I have to say that this moment also made me feel a little helpless. After all, from the beginning to the end, it seems that I have never opened myself to anything particularly good. And at the same time, what shocked Gong Yi even more was, in the back, he didn't expect the man to throw the book in his hand directly on the ground, and he also didn't expect him to do such a behavior, as if it's the same as losing both yourself. But in the next second, the thing she just threw away appeared in her hand. The half of the book exudes some golden light. I have to say that this should be a combination of another book, but I also think that if I get this something means getting half of the rights. Chapter 1249. Rights, 3rd. It will be a very annoying thing, so at this moment, Gong Yi doesn't really want to accept this thing. But the book had already been in his hands, and he had promised that he would save him from this deadlock, so he had no choice but to do it. Meyer, who was on the side, saw the book, and his eyes widened. There was a flash of light, as if trying to take the book down. But at this time, Aruma took a step forward and held his hand down. He didn't want him to touch this thing. You must know why the two of them are like this, and it's not because of this magical book. Only when this thing really appears in this place will it cause all kinds of wars. It is precisely because of seeing through these things that Aruma stopped Mayer's actions at this moment. Lanying also hurried over with Bobo, and at the same time the one on the street. The reminder of thunder after that, Bobo immediately. Open your eyes. Looking at the opposite sky, I didn't expect someone to call this thing out, but this time I didn't want to help save the field, it just depends on their own good fortune. But at this time, Gong Yi cast his eyes for help on himself, which made Bobo a little helpless. You know it's not. It's really difficult because of this matter. If you say that you have helped him, it is possible that a series of things will change now. Everything is predestined, and now he has become like this, naturally because someone has disrupted the balance of this place. Otherwise who would be willing to make things in this state, so naturally everything is also it's all clear. But at this time, Gong Yi didn't really want to give up, and seemed to want to struggle again, which made him feel a little helpless, but since he had already thought about it, it seemed that he should offer some help at the right time. I can help you get away from this person, but I hope you can think about the value of this. After all, I definitely can't solve these things by myself, and Luffy is the one who needs to cooperate the most. In the end, someone has to send it away. When he heard this, Luffy nodded desperately. You must know that it is a no-brainer for him. Once he can do it in a short time, then there must be no problem, but if not, there is a problem. It may mean that he has been lingering in this place all the time. Until the last moment of exhausting his life. So, Gong Yi can be considered determined. If he wants to help Luffy solve this matter, he must at least rely on his own book. The golden light emanating from the book made Gong Yi stunned, and then the light on the book completely absorbed the lightning in the places in front of him. And absorbing Luffy's body, I have to say that this thing is really useful, but it also means that there are some things that are slowly sublimated at this moment. I have to say that Shujanjin's process always gave himself a very heavy blow, and then slowly knocked into his own world, especially at this moment, everything is still there, in the process of development, and for Gong Yi, the more unexpected thing is still, the back. No one could have imagined that after the baptism of the last lightning, Luffy became several times stronger, and then he easily took the lightning in his hand, and then threw it back to the original launch. Where lightning strikes, but that a piece of sky touches steadily. I have to say that this should be a contest. The power just now should be deliberately given to Luffy, just to test whether he will use this power to escape, or will he block the blow for everyone. As expected by Gong Yi, just after his own judgment took effect, there was indeed a flash of lightning in the sky, and the ball of light was large enough to raise the entire black pirate ship to the ground. At this time, Luffy looked back and looked at everything. At a glance, it seemed that he was deciding whether to escape or to block the attack. But soon he disappeared into the air. Everyone has some differences. I thought he rushed up to catch the lightning at the fastest speed. Who would have thought that he would throw into the sea and escape directly? Gong Yi didn't say a word, he directly controlled the water, imprisoned him, and then caught him again. I thought you would repay your gratitude. This matter itself is not easy. If we join forces, we can definitely succeed. If you escape this time, it means that there will be no chance in the future. After hearing this, Luffy was stunned for a moment, but for her, this itself is an untenable thing, so the other party snapped his fingers. Chapter 1250, Escape. He just disappeared into the air. This time, everyone on the boat could see it clearly. He ran away because he was afraid. Although this kind of thing is not uncommon, I didn't expect it to happen to Luffy. The faces of the few of them suddenly stiffened. Unexpectedly, the real boss didn't take them with him when he escaped. What he promised was not like this. Gong Yi turned to look at the people behind him, and asked them if they wanted to seek shelter here or just like that quietly go with him to die. Since they didn't take them with them when they escaped, it is estimated that the subsequent verification process should have nothing to do with them. After thinking about this, a few people quickly stood in Gong Yi's camp. If things have developed to such an extent, just like before, blindly listening to that person. I'm afraid I don't know how they died, but Gong Yi was naturally satisfied after seeing that they had made such a choice. Without saying anything, I started to adjust the running situation directly. First, the arrangement was not good. You must know the surrounding defensive measures. This thunderbolt is definitely going to fall in front of you, that is. See how to deal with it, if you can do it in a proper way, let alone avoid it. Even if he takes over this issue abruptly, there is no problem, so at this moment, Gong Yi can be considered to have synthesized all the solutions that came up in his mind, and wants to solve the problem at hand, but he also needs to know that this matter it's never as simple as you think. You guys should do a good job of the measures on that side first, and if there are any other problems, let me know quickly and then make adjustments. And Illuma not to let any suspicious people in. After hearing this, the two agreed. This is the way it is. If you want to use a normal range to ask him to achieve it, then there must be a lot of things that can't be done. But the rest of the things are different, but if you make a decision with some one-sided things, it can be said that it is easy to do, and at this moment, escaping can be regarded as a reassurance for the whole ship. After all, the reason why he escaped was because, that thunderbolt was too powerful, and being able to subdue this thunderbolt was enough to prove that he had the strength to lead everyone to the last moment. In this case, it would be beneficial to both parties. In fact, Gong Yi is not very repelled. But the current situation is also true. If you plan to solve it in this way, at least in a short period of time, there is no way to do more on other things, so at this moment, there will be some complications. But then some flaws emerged from this place. At least at this moment, there must be some troubles between the two sides. Just like the current situation, everything was within the scope of their own budget. But there was only one thing that was beyond his control. That is the one in front of him. This lightning bolt is the only survivor who survived through all the obstacles, and he hit the highest end of the mast in the center, which made everyone on the boat start to get excited. When they got up, they all wanted to jump off the bed, for fear that some other problems would arise after the lightning strike. Everyone, don't get excited and do it well. If you have any problems, I will solve it for you, and when I am not sharing hardships with you, don't think about that. There are some who don't, and I will definitely be able to get through this. When it's difficult, don't be nervous. Main thing is to stabilize the situation and let them do their own thing in their own positions, otherwise it will be really difficult to get over the water, and there are some things that give me a little headache, but at the same time, that book lights up again. I always feel that every time I practice, there is nothing good, but this time it is still within a normal range. I just got the underwear that I just approved, and I must suck it back. But at this time, Gong Yi had to stabilize everyone's emotions. As long as they get excited, nothing good will happen again in this place. Finally, under Gong Yi's comfort, everyone stayed at their posts and quietly finished the task in front of them. I have to say that in this turmoil, Gong Yi was most interested in it. Mayor and Alma are two people, they are accompanied by Lan Ying. Finally, some of the riots on the ship were calmed down first. As expected of his right-hand man, he also showed a certain demeanor at this time, and what made him more flustered at this moment was actually the one that Luffy stayed before he escaped. Some things, that's not a good sign. Chapter 1251. Repair. If you have something on your body that Luffy gave you, I advise you to throw it into the sea quickly. That thunderbolt is locked, and everything related to Luffy must be thrown away, otherwise the lightning will lock you. It may bring disaster to other people on the ship. I hope you don't do it too much, let alone do those tiresome things. After hearing this, those who were with him before took out a series of items in their bags, and threw them out of the window. There was also a thumping sound in the sea, and they had to said that at this moment, Gong Yi's heart was quietly bumped. I really didn't expect that so many people under him were already in the same camp with him. If he had seen the current situation, he would have ridiculed himself, but the current situation may also be based on his expectations. Out of range, but it doesn't matter. In the end, it's not all about developing step by step, and at this moment, I have also discovered some other secrets. I never imagined that before I solved this mystery, I already had a more fertile thing. When it was delivered to the door, it was the former Marshal Tucci. He was willing to come out of his small house, because he was the captain of this pirate ship, so his ability to use things must be much more proficient than himself. After all, he has been there for so many years. The one who just took office is much better. As expected, as soon as he came out, he had stabilized the situation. With a wave of his hand, the cloud vegetables in the sky not only spread out, but even other basic development has been directional. After seeing this scene, Gong Yi was stunned for a moment, and then Marshal Tucci immediately grabbed his hand, raised it to the sky, and a warm sun shone on the two of them. She suddenly said a very strange spell. She didn't know what it was, but it was obvious that Gong Yi felt like she was full of sunshine. The ability is the same, and the whole person is warm. What is this? A thing that is similar to home. After he spreads all your meridians and blood vessels on your body, all the people here will obey you. I am giving you the power of the captain of the pirate ship. I want to understand. I also thought of the previous memories. I should set myself free, instead of entangled with you. Gong Yi was stunned after hearing this. Unexpectedly, after he thought about the matter of perishing together before, since he was still willing to give up the things in front of him. Originally thought that after Marshall got to those things and contacts, he would decisively choose to abandon everything and then face the others. It seems that this time is really beyond his expectations, but maybe it can be found in some places. The place to get through is that there needs to be some access. Then why are you handing over this thing to me? I have a pirate ship of my own. If you are like this, what should I do with my ship? At this time, Marshal Tucci suddenly smiled, as if he was laughing at Gong Yi's ignorance, and at the same time, as if he was laughing at her naivety. Since I figured it out, I have already begun to hand over the captain's rights with you, which proves that the ship is mine, and I will watch it wander around the world in this place. You can take this black pirate with you. The ship roams around this place, and as its captain you will have a lot of abilities. It can even be said that there is boundless power, and it can control everyone who wants to sign a contract with you in this place. They are just ants under your hands. You can also assign them to accompany you here and swim around on a sea. Let's go, it won't be difficult for you. After hearing this, Gong Yi didn't looked at him incredulously, as if he was looking at a monster, and was very dissatisfied with his words. Everyone is equal. Why? Because this person is what kind of thing? You have to make the same judgment on her. This is absolutely impossible. Everyone has equal value, and there is no need to look down on others, so as not to look down on each other when the time comes. It will bring more than just a little trouble to yourself. I don't need to tell me about this, and you should be very clear in your heart. I don't want all my subordinates to be regarded as subordinates. I prefer to be friends with them. If I leave the pirate ship, I feel that I might be bound by power, so I will return it to you. The power that Gong Yi moved quickly on himself was actually transmitted to the person beside him, and Marshal Tucci didn't expect this to take over his inheritance abruptly. Chapter 1252, Energy. It is even more violent than the force he sent out before. It feels like he is like this. Hey, the captain of the pirate ship, who can use these abilities freely, feels much stronger than himself. So at this moment, Marshall, there were those unbelievable expressions on Ku Chi's face. But after returning this thing to him, Gong Yi winked at his companions behind him. Aruma and Mayer immediately smiled knowingly, and then also gave him a victory gesture. A few people in this way, he walked back to the side of the deck, and then stared at the most dazzling person on the deck. Marshal Tucci, believe in yourself, you can lead them to the top of this world. And you must also know that you are the real boss to them. Hearing this, even if he has some incredulous, believing look, but at this moment he can only accept it smoothly. What he said is indeed true. If he can really lead everything, then it is a great breakthrough for me. At the same time, what shocked me even more was actually these. The changes brought to me by people who have nothing to do. Maybe I never thought of having any special disputes with them before. But at this moment it is different. I feel the whole body is full of strength. And it can be said that it is because of their actions that they have achieved this step. It is false to say that they are not grateful, and the one who should be most grateful is Gong Yi in front of them. If he hadn't carefully advised himself, it is possible that at this time he was still on the road of doubt, and he didn't want to dominate the whole place. Get out of the dungeon. Although I know that you may have some other hurdles in your heart that you haven't crossed yet, I think you should also think about it. If they don't have you, it will be a big blow to them. Needless to say that you must be. It should also be very clear, and this matter has already been concluded. Seeing some doubts on his expression, Gong Yi smiled, then patted him on the shoulder and left directly. This matter is not what she said or what she thought pure. Is it possible to give this power to himself? Can you get rid of such a fate? It's not like this. Everyone has already paid attention to something. Don't think that he can solve a lot of trouble by throwing this burden on himself. Sometimes it's like this. Once everything is premised, then the next thing is very difficult, at least for a short period of time. No one can match the quantity, maybe for someone. But for myself it is completely an unfeasible thing. Anyway, this ship in the Black Sea is yours, and the rights on it and everything else are also yours. If you have any other questions, we can also solve them separately, but it's just a little more difficult. Since Marshal Tucci has supported him for such a long time, it is not short of this so-called time, so for himself, there is nothing to be considerate of him. He just feels tired of this life and wants to start a new one again. It's just. But how can a peaceful life be better than this? Everything is not like this. Everything that develops step by step is destined, just like Aruma and Mayor. Mayor is destined to be with. There's a hint of involvement there. And Aruma is also destined to say goodbye to his life. Joining this pirate group, every time Mayor holds his own demon sword, he always thinks about some messy things and sometimes thinks about the past in that period of life. I sometimes consider some other things, but in the end what can I do? Sword, and there is no combination of two people and swords. How can I save myself from that headless corpse? After the matter subsided, Gong Yi and a few others packed up and left the ship in 2 days, but when they arrived at night, they didn't expect an unexpected event to happen to this ship in the Black Sea. The pirate ship was hijacked by another pirate ship with a blue glow. The people on the boat hurry down. This boat has already been recruited by us, or hand over all your resources, or we will just leave the boat. After hearing this voice, Gong Yi hurriedly ran out, and saw Marshal Tucci standing there with his fists clenched. His face was frozen, he didn't know what he was thinking. Chapter 1253. What happened now? What's wrong now? Just before the voice fell, Meyer's panicked voice suddenly came from beside him, saying that there was a group of people suddenly advancing on the side of the ship's side. Gong Yi didn't take it to heart at first, but when he saw the frozen expression on the captain's face in front of him. It has already been judged. It seems that this time it was hijacked by another ship. Who would have thought that things would develop to this level? Immediately Lan Ying and Aruma also appeared on the deck. Gathered together, it seems that they all want to discuss the current countermeasures. But now Marshall's attitude is not very clear, and he also asked Gong Yi's department to make up his mind. For fear of taking his position, a few of them are about to leave. Now that they are disrupting some order, adding trouble is not a good thing. So Gong Yi just wanted to leave. Unexpectedly, he was attacked unexpectedly. Gong Yi is also very sorry for such a thing. After all, he didn't mess up the incident, but he could clearly see some facts in his eyes. In the end, it's all on your own. You have to believe me. At this time, Marshal Tucci raised his hand, but did not pick it up again. To him, it was more like an action similar to humiliation, but at this moment, people had to bow their heads under the eaves. There are some things I want to do, but can't do it. Otherwise, once the bottom line of the other party is violated, the few of them will not want to leave today. This place does not belong to them, and they will have some illusions after staying in this place for a long time. But in any case, the lives of Aruma and Mayor must be saved, so they can only hold back for a while. Anyway, as long as this trouble is solved tonight, a few people can leave this place like a time bomb. I didn't suspect that you did it, but you have seen the current situation. I'm afraid you don't want to leave for a while. I want to ask you to help me resolve this situation first. Ignore this whole family here, there are so many people on board, you can keep one, pirates are not that easy to drive away. After hearing this, Gong Yi didn't with a blink of an eye thinking of his possibility, could it be the magic book indicating what he should do? So Gong Yi hurriedly hurried. He ran back to his cabin, and then found the book and opened the page that belongs to the divination, but there is nothing on that page. Instead, it was a blank picture of Aruma. After seeing Gong Yi fleeing in a hurry, she immediately followed, thinking that the other party came back to verify the result of the divination. Aruma walked in from behind the door and took a photo. Gong Yi's shoulder. He has already said so, or let's help them, anyway. It's not difficult, and you can't do anything about it now. Once everyone on the ship suffers like this, some things will make people feel more headaches, not to say anything else, but some have already agreed, no matter what, they have to do some perfunctory, and to be honest, it's not that nasty yet. After hearing Aruma suddenly appear and speak, Gong Yi immediately. He hid a book in his hand, but after doing this, he felt a little stupid. First put the book on a flat surface, and then show the result in front of Aruma, who just glanced at it inadvertently at first. But after seeing the words written on it, he immediately read it again and again, then raised his head to look at Gong Yi. Gong Yi shrugged his shoulders with a helpless expression. After all, at this time, it's not. I have the final say, but the result of the divination in this place is like this. If a few people intervene in this matter, then they will not be able to get out of it for a month or two. And there may be casualties. It can be said that it is very clear. Therefore, at this moment, neither of them is willing to believe the result in front of them, but what can he do? Fact. Even if you don't believe it, what can you do? In the end, things will develop to such a stage. At this time, Shicheng also knocked on the door suddenly and gathered at the door. Aruma opened the door and put Shicheng in. The other party held a piece of paper, and then brought it up in front of Gong Yi. This is something that Luffy left behind before. There should be people who haven't thrown away things about him, otherwise how could a curse suddenly appear? It is impossible for a pirate ship to appear in this sea area, and the black pirate ship has directional choice, unless Marshal Tucci has the same heart. Chapter 1254. Interference. After hearing this, Gong Yi didn't. You felt a little creepy. How could this be possible? Just now this man asked himself if he would like to help her. So at this moment Gong Yi looked at the few people in front of him, his eyes were full of disbelief. With a look of disbelief, Aruma was not willing to attack him at once when he saw his appearance, but it was the truth, how can I avoid it? And now, if everything can develop in the direction that I want, then it can be said that there is no problem at all, but in fact it is not the case. I am willing to calm everything down. In the previous state, but there are always people who are unwilling to do what they want, so what can be done? Not to do things step by step. If it is confirmed that it is him, we will make another plan, but at present, there is no way to confirm it is he himself, so let's not move now. After all, such a thing is also for everyone. It's a distraction. Don't forget that there are many people on board who are worth saving, and not all of them are as hateful as they are. After hearing this, the two of them nodded and admitted. After all, it was like Shicheng. In fact, there are many more on the ship, but they were forced by life and had to choose which. Camp was just too much. They don't have those feelings, but at this time there is no way. They have already accommodated, but at the same time, Gong Yi let Aruma do some other things secretly, and together with Mayor, find some other people in the cabin. To see if anyone is willing to fight against that man with them. I didn't expect that after Luffy left, he would still look like he was still alive. In this case, he always had to let him know some interests, otherwise he would always think that he was a person who is easy to bully, and at the same time the thing that shocks me even more, the back. Everything is like a typesetting paper, and it can only be published when the time comes. This kind of feeling pervades my heart, which is very strange. But the thing that surprised me the most is still, in the back, if these things can develop according to their own ideas, then everything is just a dream. But now, after Luffy left, he actually found out about this aspect and continued to perform remote control, which was enough to shock himself. Or is it that this person never left, that it was just a trick for them to play together, and after thinking of this, Gong Yi's eyes narrowed. If this is the case, then you should investigate the responsibility of the other people on this ship. After all, if you do this, is it worthy of my conscience? This is just what I don't want to say at this moment, and it doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know, and don't play like a monkey, but it seems that they think that they are a person who can be deceived at will. What they talked about before was loyalty, and now they should talk about it and do it step by step. How about, you go and tell Marshal Tucci that we have already made an appointment, and there are other parties to attend before the return day, anyway. Find an excuse and have to push this rescue mission away from me. Otherwise, you will clean up all the messes by yourself. I will not help you. After all, this time you can think about it. Everything develops according to your own heart. What you really want to do is your own. Gong Yi's words have already been mentioned for this sake, and a few people will naturally be able to understand what he means. After all, this matter has already been put in front of us. Marshal Tucci pulled the corner of his mouth into a smile, as if he had already seen what kind of choice he would have. After receiving such a signal from the other party, Shicheng hurriedly took a step back. Marshal Tucci didn't seem to have such an expression that such a good person could show. Run away. Maybe he was able to avoid the difficulty, but as expected, just after he left, a cruel smile appeared on the corner of the man's mouth, and then he ruthlessly tore the person in front of him to pieces, and no one was able to. Thinking of this, after all, who could have imagined that such a person would do such a thing, and no one around dared to look at such a cruel picture. Just after Shicheng left, basically everyone around Marshal Tucci also secretly ran away, for fear that he would take anger at him, and the scene just now was still imprinted in everyone's hearts. Chapter 1255, Raid. And at this moment, Gong Yi also got some reliable news. It is said that the pirate ship on the opposite side actually came this time to snatch Bobo back. It seems that this little fox is really in demand, but the blue Sakura must have had a lot of trouble this time. You must know that there is not much difference between the two of them, but what shocks me even more at this moment is that the existence of Lan Ying is so high, but it is also one of the 7 ancient weapons. Who doesn't want to own another one? It was the devil's sword in Mayer's hand. There is also a Yanlong sword, which is said to be related to Aruma, but at this time Gong Yi did not get some other information, and the only one was the information obtained from the book. Although the storytelling did not, it must be reliable, but some of the characteristics he has shown from the beginning to the present can be regarded as making everyone believe it. After all, the previous judgment can be said to be really accurate. If a good result can be achieved within the scope of his help, it must be a good deal, but now there are some things that I don't know how to follow. What kind of it is normal to judge the direction? After all, as he thought, this man must have planned everything. And now he can't judge whether Luffy and Marshal Tucci have anything premeditated plans. After all, this matter is not. You can decide by yourself. And at this very moment, Luffy can be considered to have obtained his own life-saving certificate, and successfully disappeared from this place. Then his life will not have any optimization problems. The next thing to solve is the captain of the so-called Black Pirate ship. When the power is distributed to oneself, may still be some appreciation and gratitude for Gong Yi, but after hearing what he said later, I felt that how could I have such a scope of thinking in the first place? He just thought about some leisure time. What is there to respect for such a person who just wants to dump his burden on others? You may even disdain to talk to such a person, but there is nothing you can do about it. You have to rely on others to succeed in what you want to do. Love is like this. It can be done, but if you don't feel good, it's all just a bad thing in your mind. Let's leave him alone, let's finish the current situation, but I didn't expect the other party to be so mad, thinking that you are provoking others, or else they might chase you fiercely. At that time, Aruma was at a loss as to how to say that Ant had returned to her body, and this matter really has nothing to do with you. If it is relevant, I am afraid that I have already solved this matter last time. Not because they have caused trouble for me everywhere. If it is not for them to interfere with those few things, it will not be in this state at all. But fortunately, when he figured it out and left, Mayer put them together and threw the question to Marshal Tucci once again. Otherwise, the two of them wouldn't have run so fast after reporting the news. At least he Shicheng already knew that. The other party's look was not to mention that he wanted to kill him. That kind of terrifying comes from hell, the general feeling, he Shicheng I don't want to experience it a second time. But at this moment, some things have become different. Mayer and he Shicheng were sitting in the corner discussing the things between the two people before. To be honest, at that time I always thought you were a brazen person. How could you be able to chase after you all the way after hurting everyone? But then I realized that the world doesn't seem as bad as I thought. At least it is also a decent person. Kunzi, it is still okay to admire you. After hearing what he admitted, he was the only one in this pirate group who didn't appreciate him. I don't want to have any dealings with me. It seems that I want to get rid of myself, but I didn't expect to become the first person who is willing to accept me. This makes me feel something from my heart. Happy, and at this moment, the sudden event happened to strike. Near the cabin of Gong Yi, suddenly there was a scream from outside. Gong Yi, who was sorting documents in that place, was shocked when he heard it. I thought something was coming from that place, but when I looked closely, I found that it was a bunch of people, and they rushed onto the boat from that remote place, as if they were sneak attackers. But at this moment, the Aruma and Mayer is not here. Is he going to fight alone with himself? The screams next to him are getting closer and closer. Chapter 1256. Decision. Although Gong Yi really didn't want to rush forward alone, there was nothing he could do. After all, that's the way it was. Everyone was at a difficult time. Could it be that he still had to spend his time in this place and he couldn't see it? This wave of people's attack is definitely targeted. Aruma and Mayer just left their front feet and back feet not long ago, and they followed up with their back feet. If they said that there was no other intention in their hearts, they would never believe it, and they were chatting on the side at this moment. The two of them also heard voices coming from this side. I really didn't expect that not long after the two talents left, something unexpected happened on this side, and he Shicheng dragged Mayer and ran back quickly. After going in for a while, I will flank around and save people first. If I guessed correctly, Gong Yi should be the only one in that place. After saying this, he Shicheng nodded, and the two rushed to the side at the fastest speed. I don't know how well they cooperated, but at this moment, they can only be a dead horse and a living horse doctor. Chill for a while. Well, if something else happens, this time is doomed. And if Marshal Tucci has some other malicious intentions, then no one except Gong Yi should be able to deal with him, not only some gaps in testability, but also some other points of attention. At least a few people have no way to solve it peacefully at this time, so after he Shicheng and Mayer sounded the alarm next to them, I hope that the people from Aruma can come quickly. On the other hand, the two people directly surrounding that place, pirates suddenly appeared in it and directly grabbed Gong Yi. I really didn't expect that when I came in, I caught a big one. If I guessed correctly, you are the captain of this ship. Then you really think too much, the real captain is on deck. After hearing this, the pirate chief couldn't help but smile. We are coming from above the deck. People told us that the real captain is under this place. There is a cabin with a wooden sign hanging outside. This place is the real place, and the captain's cabin is just a shield. After hearing these words, Gong Yi turned his face pale, but he didn't expect to be betrayed by Marshal Tucci in the end. He originally thought that what he had done before was already repentant, but now it seems possible it's just a slowdown. If you want to believe him, then I can't help it, anyway. If you want to tell the truth, he is the captain of that place. If you don't believe it, you can transfer a few soldiers from outside, ask them a few questions, and those people will tell you your real answer. At this time, Gong Yi calmly made the pirate chief panic a little bit. If it wasn't for the captain, he wouldn't believe it. I got a leader, but the other party said that he was not and also made himself a little doubtful. You must know that the person on the deck does not look sinister at first glance, but looks like a person who wants to usurp power, but at this moment, the other party has already said it for this sake, and he has no choice. Is taking advantage of such a hesitant time. The two people outside broke into the door directly. Mayor grabbed the man's neck and locked it in the corner. At this moment, Shicheng rushed forward directly, hoping to solve this matter. But it also made me feel a little bit of a headache. After all, he is still the investment of this pirate. It can be said that his skills are very strong. He can't take it down for a while. After seeing this scene, Mayor on the side simply rushed over to help. Freedom was restored. A few people beat and kicked all of them, and at this moment, what shocked Gongyi even more was what he said just now. Did Marshal Tucci really betray himself? His only last hope in this place, although it is true that he is the captain of the black pirate ship. But the power in this place has basically been handed down to him. Is it because he hates such a thing, so he did such a behavior? It is reluctantly acceptable to say such a thing, but if there are other possibilities in fact, his heart is really struggling. He may have had a life-threatening exchange with him before, but didn't he have said that he didn't hate himself before? At this moment did Gongyi realize what a lie is, what deception is, and everything is just a trap he laid for himself, and he already knew the truth.